The Mets take 2 of 3 from the San Diego Padres, looking like they will make it into the postseason. The Yankees still holding out hope that they can chase down the Blue Jays in the American League East. It is a football Friday. We got to preview both the Giants and Jets and some Rangers news also here today on the show. Jamie, it's a football Friday. I know we have model bets to get to as well towards the tail end of the show. How are you today, my friend?
Doing all right. Looking forward to the weekend. I will apologize for Chris in advance for having his gain on his mic so far up that every movement he makes you can hear like his thoughts.
We can fix that.
But in the meantime,
so it was what pre-show testing is for.
I didn't catch it in the pre-show. And
Am I better now?
That sounds like you're just doing.
Is it
this whole time?
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay.
Better now. But yeah, I would say this. Well, I guess we both are feeling a little better about New York baseball than the last time that we talked. And, the Yankees have pretty much put a stranglehold here on basically a playoff spot. They were, even despite how hot the Guardians are right now, the Yankees are still 4.5 games up on a playoff spot. Blue Jays are struggling a little bit, but again, you've got 9 games to play, 3 games in 9. It's tough to kind of make that sort of a run up right now. But to me, I think the more interesting element here is that the Mets they're going to run out the clock on this at some point. They won their last game, but Diamondbacks and Giants kind of had their little bit of a back and forth in that series. Now the Mets have 2 games up on both Arizona and Cincinnati, 3 games up on San Francisco. Again, I don't know if this season went another month where we would be, but I do think the Mets are at the point where they're just going to be able to run out the clock, and it looks like they're going to play San Diego again, because San Diego's in the same situation the Yankees kind of are in the division, where 3 games with 9 to play type of a deal. So, I mean, possible, but again, you're running out of time here. So, Chris, I'm going to ask you, what do you feel right now? Again, not that 2 games is an insurmountable lead for teams to overcome, but there becomes a point where we still haven't seen a consistent run from Arizona, from San Francisco, from Cincinnati, and you start to see, like, at some point, their time to catch the Mets is probably past. They had an amazing opportunity to do it, and I believe for like a 12-hour period, there was it a tie, or was the Mets half game? I forgot. Okay. So there was like a 12-hour period where it kind of happened, but I feel like it's come and gone now. Like, I think you're going to need you have 9 games left in the season. I mean, if the Mets go even 4-5, they're probably in.
Yeah, because, and this is where the math becomes really important. If the Mets win 4 of their final 9 games, they'll get to 83 wins. That would require both the Reds and Diamondbacks to go 6-3 just to match them. Now, the Reds have the season series tiebreaker, so they don't have to pass the Mets; they just have to tie them. But it would require a 6-3 stretch here, coupled with the Mets winning only 4 games when they have 6 with the Nationals and the Marlins. There's a world where the next time you hear from us, the Mets have swept the Nationals and they've gotten 3 of those 4 wins that Jamie was just mentioning. So to me, if you get to 83 or 84 wins, I think that will mean that it's the Mets spot.
Yeah, and keep in mind I know they beat them on Thursday, but there's 3 more games for the Reds against the Cubs. They end the season with 3 at Milwaukee. So you're starting to, and the Diamondbacks, we talked about how they're a real tough stretch here.
Phillies,
Dodgers,
Padres.
and Padres. Like that's a pretty brutal stretch for them. And the Giants, they're currently in a series now with the LA Dodgers. They have a little bit easier path though. They finished the year. I guess maybe now that's the team to kind of watch in terms of scheduling, because they end the season with a 6-game homestand, 3 against the Cardinals and 3 against the Rockies. So that's the game. That's the one to probably watch a little bit. Now, again, they're further back than the other 2 teams, but again, if we're going to start, your scoreboard watching kind of at this point, and the Mets, again, as we've talked about, control their destiny. But if for some reason the Mets start struggling again, that's the team that has the easiest path of the teams trying to chase down the Mets to get there.
It's interesting because maybe I'm wrong for thinking this, but I'm not really worried about what the other teams are doing. Like if the Mets just go out there and they sweep over the weekend, like it's fine. Like I'm not. If they take 2 out of 3 over the
Well,
weekend, they're in a good spot.
that's the thing, and I know we talked about it, but I beat that point home when you said, be careful, just be careful," because and you're right, it's baseball, but this is the series, right? I mean, this is your last homestand of the year. It's the it's the last time you're gonna be in front of these fans, most likely. This is just sweep them, because then you're gonna have to go play 3 games in Chicago, and then 3 games in Miami, which doesn't, again, as we've talked about before, on paper is like, oh, that's a good matchup, but they just haven't been for the Mets.
Yeah, a
And
sweep over the weekend gets you to 82, right? And then that means if you win 2 of your final 6, I just looking at everybody else's schedule and knowing that the Mets have a 2-game lead going into all of this, 84 feels like you ice everybody out.
yeah, I'd agree.
And that's just 5-4.
Just take
That's
care of
all it
business
is.
against the Nets. Take care of business against the Nets. Like this is one of those ones where I think 2 of 3 is the bare minimum. Like this, you need to sweep. This is one of those ones where you're a good enough team. You need to put a stranglehold on a playoff spot. You go out and sweep this series.
I would agree. I think it needs to be a sweep. Brandon Sproat goes tonight. If you're listening to this on Friday, the Mets also have Nolan McLean going in this series as well. So the Mets have their 2 best pitchers so far this season going for them. At this stage of the season, their 2 best starters going for them at the start of this series. Okay, it is a Football Friday. We got 2 games to preview here, both the Jets and Giants in action. Jimmy, I kind of want to start with the game that's later in the day. I want to start with the nightcap. I want to start with the Giants and the Chiefs because I find this game fascinating because it's a battle of 0-2 teams. I am taking the Chiefs minus the 6 just on record ahead of this because I think the Chiefs are just going to come out and be angry. But I wouldn't fault somebody for making the case that the Giants can keep this game closer than that because of how poorly the Chiefs have played so far through 2 weeks. But there's a lot of different layers to this onion, so I'll let you kind of guide us through this preview.
Yeah, so I mean, I've turned this game over in my head a lot all week because I know we've made the jokes on the show and of like, hey, they've already beat the Giants, we're just talking about how badly they're going to lose, all that other sort of thing. But, and again, I still think they lose this game because I still think at the end of the day, the Chiefs are a better football team than the Giants, and they desperately need this win. And I think everybody in that Chiefs organization knows how badly they need this win. But I don't think we can overlook some of the Chiefs' struggles this year and some of the attrition that roster has taken over the last handful of years. And obviously, they've been to 3 straight Super Bowls, so it's going to happen. It's at some point. But this is a team that can't run the ball at all. One of the least efficient running games in the NFL. Might be the least efficient. I know Isaiah Pacheco is the least efficient running back in football. I'm not sure. I think with Patrick Mahomes' scrambling has probably kept them outside of the cellar. At that point, by the way, leading rusher for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. This team has a ton of injuries and pass catchers. Travis Kelce looked old last year and looks older this year out there. So I don't think Xavier Worthy is going to play, although they're being a little bit more coy about that at this point. So there is an avenue where if the Giants offense can play at the level that they played against Dallas or close to it, obviously I'm not talking about necessarily scoring 40, but at least look that good where you can have long sustained drives down the field, get Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors involved, Scatterboo out of the backfield. They could theoretically at home keep this game close, because the Chiefs' offense has left a lot to be desired lately. The problem is going to be at the end of the day is the ultimate X factor here, is that one side's got Patrick Mahomes and one side's got Russell Wilson in the twilight of his career. And at the end of the day here, I don't think the Giants do enough things well consistently to win this game. However, I have this feeling that one of 2 things is going to happen. It's either going to be the Chiefs by, or it's going to be the Chiefs have to put a drive together in the 4th quarter to win. Like, I don't feel like this is going to be one of those like 10, 13-point games. I feel like either the Chiefs are going to roll or we're going to be on upset watch into the 4th quarter of this game.
Yeah, you posed the question in the rundown that said, can Russell Wilson keep the Giants in the game? And I think that may be the wrong way to look at it. I think the way that I would choose to look at it is Do the Giants need Russ to even keep them in the game with the way the Chiefs are playing? The Chiefs aren't playing like the Chiefs of 2 years ago that, yes, you need a vintage Russell Wilson performance to keep you in the game. Jimmy, I don't know if you know this stat. I pulled this before the show. The Giants have a higher yards per play than the Kansas City Chiefs through 2 weeks.
I believe that.
It's not by much. The Giants are at 5.8. The Chiefs are at 5.7. But the Giants' offense on a yards per play basis are moving the ball better than the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't know if people really understand how much of a struggle it has been through the first 2 weeks for this Chiefs attack. Now, you face the Chargers and you face the Eagles. The Giants are in a different tax bracket than those two teams. It is a different distribution of those two teams and where they're going to be at the end of the season compared to where we all think the Giants are going to be. And the other thing that I would question, and this is more of a negative about the Giants being in this game, did you get the Russ vintage performance last week and waste it? That's the other question, is how repeatable is what we saw? Not exactly, play for play, blow for blow, but Russ being that much of a centerpiece of your offense. And unfortunately, I don't know if we can answer that question until we see it again. Once I see it twice, I'll start to believe that Russ may have a little gas left in the tank and can pull that out when it's needed. But right now, you did it once and it didn't work. You didn't win the football game. That can be very depleting for a team. So I look at this from, can you get more vintage Russ, or did you get that one start last week and now it's going to be back to what you saw in week 1? And 2, do you even need that with how poorly the Chiefs have played through 2 weeks? Or you're the Giants, those were the Chargers and the Eagles, and you're about to get a rude awakening. I really don't know how to look at this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's precisely the problem of, yes, if the Chiefs offense operates like it did in week 1 and week 2, the Giants can stay in this game, and heck, Giants could win this game. The problem is, and even though there are some really good pieces on the Giants side of the ball, they're not the same caliber overall of a unit as those other teams, and nor are they as good offensively as those other teams. And I know the Eagles are in a kind of a weird state offensively right now through these first couple weeks, but they still also have the ultimate cheat code in the backfield in Saquon Barkley that the Giants used to have but don't have no more. So yeah, I look at this as, if you want to, it's tough to do this because you can't just necessarily splice things together. But if you take the Giants' week 2 offensive performance and you meld it,
with the week 1 defensive performance,
yes,
that's a team I can
which
get
again
behind.
Wasn't unbelievable, but wasn't bad.
That's a team that can win 8
games. They kept them
games
in that game, and the Chiefs play like the Chiefs have played. The Giants can win. I just think you're asking a lot. You're putting a lot of what ifs. But like at the end of the game, like look just right now, like if you're listening to the show or watching us right now, close your eyes, all right, and think about this for a second.
I'll play along.
Okay, close your eyes. In your heart of hearts, when you're thinking about this game and you're running through scenarios in your head, and let's say you're going to run through 100 scenarios, tell me 95 of them aren't that the Chiefs are going to win.
Well, I would say 95 of them are the Chiefs win by multiple scores.
So,
yeah.
So at the end of the day, there is a path. It's the NFL. We saw it on Thursday night a little bit. I mean, that Miami Dolphins Buffalo Bills game was in doubt for a long time.
It annoys me. It annoys me that game was in doubt.
It's the NFL, man. Like there are no free wins in the NFL. However, so many things would have to break in the Giants' favor for them to win this game. I just don't see it happen.
Well, and it goes back to something I said earlier. You're just not sure if what you saw last week offensively was a flash in the pan or if it was something that is semi-sustainable. I won't say fully sustainable because that's a little unfair to them as a group.
Well, and also because if you remember, we talked about in the preview last week, and actually going all the way back to the week 1 because the Cowboys played on that opening night. And I said to you, the Cowboys defense is extremely vulnerable, particularly for downfield passes. And we didn't see the Eagles try to attack that at all in the opener.
Well, they don't do that against anybody. They just throw 5-yard out routes.
No, they don't throw the ball down the field at all. But I said that, and then the first team the Cowboys had to face that would try to push the ball down the field, the Giants did it all early, often, and always. Even in the time when the Cowboys knew they were going to go deep to Malik Neighbors, and they did it like 2 plays before, they still didn't stop it. So there's also the sense to me is that the Kansas City's defense is, even though it's not as good maybe as it was a couple years ago,
it's not.
They
Cowboys
do have some
bad.
issues getting to the passers. They are a far better defense than the Dallas Cowboys. So to get that performance again from Russ, I don't see it.
Yeah, I have the Chiefs 28-17.
I have Chiefs 31-14. I think this is okay. Here, and we'll talk about this on Monday, and then we'll move to your team. This is, and this has to be. Let's take the New York lens off for a second. This has to be the get right game for Kansas City. Because if it's not, again, I'm not ruling anything out. I remember when they got beaten by, I remember when all these things happened. Like I've watched the Patriots get preemptively and prematurely killed by fans, and then them go run the table, win the Super Bowl. I'm never gonna count out Reed and Mahomes and this Chiefs team right now. But this has to be your get right game. And this doesn't need to be your get right game you win by a late field goal. This has to be a get right game, which is you win and you win big and you execute pretty much in every facet of your game. Because I know it's the Chiefs, and I know we all just expect that at some point the switch is going to flip and they're going to be there. And it very well could happen. But they have a tough division this year. And the Chargers have already beaten them. And Chargers are playing good football right now. And we haven't seen Patrick Mahomes have to go an extended run on the road to the Super Bowl. So, meanwhile, this has to be the get right game for the Chiefs, like beyond anything else. And then, like I said, if it is, then we're going to be having a different conversation on Monday. Is all going to be around probably Jackson Dart, Daboll's job, Shane Bowen's job, and we'll be off and running.
Yeah, certainly feels like those are the two outcomes that you can see in this game on Sunday. It does feel like if you start 0-3, it doesn't really matter how well or poorly you play in the 3 games. 0-3 is 0-3, and you can't really avoid the noise at that point. I know, to use the Thursday night game as an example, Mike McDaniel might have been able to buy himself a week, but you lose on Monday to the Jets, you're 0-4. Like, at some point, your record is what your record is, and you're going to be judged based on that record. So you get to 0-3, and I just think the Giants' power players are going to be running out of time.
Well, yeah. And again, on just one last point on the Chiefs here, or why this has to be the get right game. Next week, you play the Ravens. 2 weeks after that, you play the Lions. So, like, if they struggle against the Giants, or heaven forbid they lose against the Giants,
you could be staring 0-5 in the face.
Yeah, I guess 1-5, because there's a game in between. I think it's Jacksonville.
Oh, okay, 1-5.
Still, like you're staring at a spot that gets really weird for Kansas City, where I feel like Giants are already I think Giants fans are already assuming that 0-3 is a lock.
More Cam Scatterbo would be my suggestion to the Giants.
Would like to see it. Would like to see it. And again, this is going to be the key here. I know Tyrone Tracy's been a little bit banged up, but I want to see if last week was the start of Scatterbo kind of taking over the lead role or just a blip. Well, again, we have such a small sample size, we can't really say anything definitively.
I also just want to see Cam more because I think he embodies what this team is as a team. And that toughness, that hard-nosed running, I think is a energy creator, a momentum creator, if you want to call it that the rest of the team can feed off of. And if they see somebody that's willing to basically run over and run through defenders and grind for every single yard, and they win football games, that can help inspire a group. And so I know you can't make decisions solely based off of vibes, but man, does Cam, I think, make the vibes of your offense better if he's out there grinding out every single yard.
Agreed. And one last point before we get off the Giants topic, because I threw it in here, and there was something that I wanted just to point out, and it was, obviously we talked about the interception from Russ at the end overtime, and then there's been a lot of conversation about how much blame was Russ, how much blame was Neighbors, why are they not on the same page, what the route was supposed to be. I saw this quote a couple days ago from Neighbors that I actually, because initially he said, he basically kind of dismissed it as like, hey, I did my job type of a thing. Then he responded back. He said, actually, I will take it being the blame. That's my fault. I should have been in more communication with Russ to know what we were going to do. I was locked in on trying to figure out how the defense was playing me at the time, and I wasn't really looking at the right time for him to give me what he gave me to try to change the run up. That's 100% my fault. And the reason why I bring that up is because I don't think that's something Malik Neighbors would have said last year. I'm not even sure that's something Malik Neighbors would have said 6 weeks ago. So I would say that while it's very easy in receivers, especially high-end receivers that are on bad teams, can cause a lot of drama, and we see it happen across the league. It did show a level of maturity that we had yet to see from Malik Neighbors to publicly seek out reporters to tell them that he wanted to take the blame. For whether it's actually 100%, again, like most of these things, it's a mix. But I do think that was an important step. And I think that shows that there is still a little bit of runway here for this Giants team before things really get rough. Because if he would have continued to double or triple down on that, and they lose this week and also other stuff, their immediate talk is that the locker room is lost. And at least at this point, that's not the talk. The talk might be that the Daboll may not survive too many more losses, but it's not that the locker room is completely gone.
And you did have Malik Neighbors, and I didn't read too much into it, but you have the visual of Neighbors and Daboll getting into it on the sideline in week 1, and this is a complete 180 from the optic that was in week 1. And so I think, and oh, by the way, there is a little bit of breadcrumbs to the idea of the locker room still believes in Russ, because if you didn't, would you come out and say that, or would you let your previous comments kind of stand, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that he went to the lengths that he did to kind of correct a record and put the blame on himself shows that there's still a level of trust and respect in that room for Russ. This isn't a Denver situation where he's got his own office and he's rubbing everybody the wrong way. So far, at least it appears, I mean, you see the way Cam Scadaboo was interacting with Russ on the sidelines, and now with this with Neighbors, certainly giving it some thought that Russ still has some command of that room and the respect and trust of those guys on the offense. The Jets taking on the Bucs. Jamie, I don't know what to do with this game. Yeah, everybody's hurt. And it changes, like, injuries are the great equalizer because the Bucs are very clearly the better football team. They have the better quarterback. So far, Todd Bowles is, I don't know what Aaron Glenn's going to be as a coach, but Todd Bowles is clearly the better coach. They have the better defense so far through 2 weeks. The run defense for the Bucs is outstanding. And so you look at the 6.5 and you say the Bucs should walk all over the Jets. Did you see what happened to them last week against Buffalo? Then you have just I think I'm using this word correctly, a cacophony of injuries for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Are you judging my use of the word?
I mean, I know what you mean, but just from a literal standpoint, that it doesn't quite work.
Isn't that like a plethora? Isn't that like a...
No, cacophony. Well, it is, but it's used more in a verbal sense. It is a verbal plethora. So
the Bucs have a plethora of injuries. I scratched my previous statement. I'll go to the...
A cornucopia of injuries.
You know what? I think that's the word I was looking for instead of
I think that's
cacophony.
where you were going.
I was looking for cornucopia. You're absolutely 100% correct.
Cacophony is a great one. I just don't think there's a cacophony of voices talking about this game. That's your English lesson for the day.
The Bucs have a cornucopia of injuries that are making this
on both sides
a tougher game to judge. They're going to be without 2 more offensive linemen. They're already without Tristan Wirfs. Chris Godwin isn't going to play. Ekbuka is questionable, but he's clearly not 100% if he's going to play on Sunday. They're without Kalijah Kancey for the rest of the season. So it's hard. I still think the Bucs win the football game. And I'm no longer, until further notice, I'm not picking the Jets to win a game after they embarrassed me the way that they did last week. But there's part of me, Jimmy, that looks at this and says, Tyrod Taylor gives the Jets a higher floor as a passing team, which they're going to need to be against this Bucs run defense. I know they're not going to have Jermaine Johnson, and I'm going to have to watch a ton of Michael Clemens snaps, which is just going to drive me insane. But the defense feels like it can get home against a inferior offensive line for the Bucs. I can see a world where the Jets keep this closer than the betting line indicates.
I could see it as well. I still think at the end of the day, Tampa Bay is a better team. They've got the better quarterback situation, and Baker Mayfield, as we saw in week 2, can just kind of take over with his arm and his legs and energize that team. But yeah, I mean, the Bucs are going to be down anywhere between 2 and 3 starting offensive linemen for this game. Some very key pieces for them. Obviously, they're down one of their defensive tackles. Their secondary leaves a lot to be desired, particularly at cornerback. That's an area where you can attack them. Now, whether Tyrod Taylor can attack them at that level, I don't know. But it's, you're still going to have to run into Vita Vea. You're still going to have some of those linebackers there. So like you're in, the Bucs are vulnerable. I just don't know if the Jets are good enough
and this is
to beat them.
And this is why this game is really important to me, because the Bucs are vulnerable, and I want to see the Jets make them sweat it out. You don't have to win
Yeah,
the game, but make them
100%.
sweat it out, because you didn't do that against Buffalo last week, and a lot of people are questioning Aaron Glenn. And I tried to put most of that to bed earlier in the week, but you have so many people that are questioning whether or not Aaron Glenn is the right coach after they got embarrassed the way that they did. Here's a vulnerable football team. You're not expected to win the game. Can you make them sweat it out for 4 quarters and them earn every second of the victory if they end up getting one? That's what I want to see. And I'll tell you, Jamie, I'm a big believer in this. This will not be the only time I say this throughout the course of the year. I know the conventional cool kid analytic thing to do is to defer to the second half. I would love for the Jets to win the toss, take the ball on the
Take the
road, march
ball.
down the field, go up 7-0. Like, give your defense
Yeah.
a chance to play ahead and put pressure, put Tampa, who's already, to your point, I'll use your word, vulnerable, put them on the back foot early. You're the underdog, right?
Yeah.
There's no sense in, as the underdog with the backup quarterback, kicking the ball away and going down 7-0. You're not helping yourself at all by doing that. So
Yeah.
win the toss, take the ball. You know what? I hope Tampa wins the toss and defers to the second half. I want the ball first if I'm Aaron Glenn and the New York Jets.
Yeah, and I do agree there are certain situations, and I know mathematically there is a slight advantage to deferring, but I do think there are certain situations where, in certain team builds, where getting the ball first is critical. And I think that,
and aren't the Jets the exact team for this? Like Justin Fields or Tyrod
yeah,
Taylor?
yes.
They're the perfect team to, I want the ball, I want to go up 7-0, I want my defense to play ahead, and then I want my offense to be able to get into its flow of a lead. We're going to run the ball, we're going to control the time of possession, we're going to limit the chances that you have. And the Jets can't do that if Tampa wins the toss, takes the ball, or they defer to the second half, and Baker goes down the field and you're down 7-0. You're playing behind from the get-go, and it's not the way the Jets want to play. And so, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I probably should use one. Good. It should probably count as a timeout against me.
Oh, but, no. I mean, that was really my point.
The Jets are a team that need to play with leads if their game script is going to work offensively. And so kicking the ball away or deferring to the second half, it just feels very counter to who they want to be as a team.
I agree.
So the Bucs are vulnerable. I don't expect the Jets to win the game, but can you make it close? Can you show, because I think there's an optic to this, can you show that you're better than the team that you were last week? Like, can you show that you learned from what happened last week? And it's not a one-to-one of play Buffalo the way that you did and then respond, oh, you've learned everything, you're now a great head coach.
Correct.
But you can at least show that week to week we can make changes and make adjustments, and we've got a handle on things here as a coaching staff. That's the thing that I'm looking for. We have model bets here on a Friday.
We do.
Normally the model bets come in a little later, but the model bets are ready on a Friday. So before we get into the final words,
you can thank my Thursday migraine for this, because normally we would record Thursday either afternoon or right after Thursday Night Football, depending on our scheduling and depending on, the relevance of Thursday Night Football to Jets or Giants coverage. But yeah, no, we have a fun one. Let me pull up my numbers here. I know we have 4.
I just looked at them. I didn't see them before we started. I just looked at the first 2, and of course, I'm gonna have to watch Atlanta Falcons football. Of course, I am.
Okay, so there are 4 right now. I think we're gonna stay at 4, just because the other guys I'm waiting on. There's some injuries and some other pieces out here. But there are 4 bets that I like this weekend. 2 of them start with the Atlanta Falcons backfield. Both Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. I like both of their overs. I got Bijan at 81.5, Algier at 40.5. Carolina's run defense is horrid. It has been horrid for some time. It is shown again early in this season that it is continued to be horrid. Both backs are going to get used in this game, and I could also see Atlanta getting up early and both these guys breaking out big runs. So I'm actually taking both backs here to go over their total. I think this could be the Falcons should and can and have the talent to run all over Carolina. I guess before the other ones, Chris, what is your initial thoughts on that? Like I said, you just saw these for the first time, so
as somebody,
we'll talk about the 2 Falcons, and then we'll talk about the 2 wide receiver props that I have.
As somebody who had Bijan to go over, I think it was 100 total combined yards in last week's game, and I didn't sweat it at all. He is everything, and in this offense where Michael Penix Jr., I don't want to say he's uncomfortable, but there is a limitation to him throwing the ball down the field. There's just a reliance on Bijan in this offense. And I know you're taking his rushing yards, but the point I'm making is Bijan is such a focal point of what they do offensively that they want to get him in a rhythm early so that when he is used in the passing game, he's comfortable. And I mean, he is he's just incredible. He's such a fun back to watch. And Algier gets so many touches because they use Bijan so much that they get Algier on the field for full drives at times, it feels like. So, yeah, I am all in. As somebody who just has to root for yards and not for touchdowns here for these two guys, I feel a lot better about these bets.
And keep in mind, Carolina last year allowed 179.8 rushing yards per game, which was understandably worse than the NFL. And their average right now is, as I take a look, is 141 rushing yards allowed per game. So the issues that Carolina has had up front are not getting any better. So like both of those guys, the other two, the receivers that I like, one of them is Jerry Jeudy. I know it's not the easiest matchup necessarily of all time on paper, but the Packers secondary is a little bit more vulnerable on the road than I think people know. And I'm pulling up the exact numbers right now to show you why. We're not going off vibes here. We're going off numbers.
We had a vibes bet last night. I had a vibes bet last night on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, and how did it work out for us?
Well, my other vibes bet of Bills minus 2.5.
Well, we both had one bet that ended up hitting.
Yeah, so we were fine.
On vibes. But so for last year, pulling up the data and trying to exclude postseason stuff because this website does not want to work the way I want it to. Last year, for example, on the road, the Green Bay Packers allowed sixth worst, 249.6 passing yards per game. Jerry Jeudy has clearly emerged as by far the most targeted receiver in that offense. They are working in both Harold Fana Jr. and David Njoku as tight ends, and those guys have both gotten significant targets, but there is a massive gap between Jerry Jeudy and everybody else in that offense. And again, quite frankly, Green Bay is a better team. I expect them to be ahead. I expect Cleveland to pass. And I think right now Jerry Judy's line is at 50.5. I have him. Oh, I should tell you what I have him projected for. Well, I'll finish up Jeudy. I have him projected for 76.5. Receiving yards. Right now, his line is 50.5. And then for the running backs, Bijan Robinson, I mentioned the line is 81.5. I have him projected for 131.25.
50 yards more than what the number is set at.
Yeah.
Value there.
I'm
going to use one.
Okay.
Is this, I'm not saying that we make this an official play for the listeners. I'm just telling you when I see those projections, you know what I see? You know what I start cooking up in my head?
Ladders?
A ladder. I start cooking up a ladder.
I've thought about it. I'm going to wait and see. I'll be perfectly honest with you, Chris. The Illinois taxes are becoming extremely annoying in the books now because things like doing a ladder bet or round robins now become a lot more expensive. Now, again, if I was betting thousands of dollars at a time, I guess I wouldn't care. But when you're betting 10, 25, 50, spending 50 cents for every single bet kind of sucks.
I'm laddering it. I'm just telling you right now, I'm doing it.
I might ladder it. What I might do is I might take, I'll see. I'm going to do something with it. I might even parlay the two running backs together. I'm going to do something with that because I do like that so much. And then Tyler Algier, 40.5 is the line. I have him at 63.5 for his. So basically what I'm telling you is that I think the Falcons could push 200 rushing yards in this game. And and honestly, it's not really out of line with what Carolina tends to allow in these scenarios. And then last up in the model bet, Cooper Kupp. His line's at 43.5. I have him at 61 yards in this game. So he's going to get some opportunities against the Saints. Obviously, JSN is the focal point of the offense, but I think all of his numbers are pretty well priced, about where I have them. Although we saw Cooper Kupp get a lot more involved last week, and that's kind of how I expect him to be as the clear wide receiver 2 there. I guess that there's some level of concern that maybe Seattle gets up and early, but no Zach Charbonnet, which is interesting. So I do wonder if they're going to throw the ball a little bit more in general versus just pounding Kenneth Walker into the dirt, which they might just do as well. So I think both of those receiver props are really interesting to me as well. Then obviously the Falcons one is simple. They run the ball a lot. They have highly talented running backs, and they're going up against arguably the worst rushing defense in the National Football League.
Final words here today on the program. Jamie, you've been going first recently, so I'd like to go first. But I would like to just let you know that when you do your final word, I had something in the rundown that's related to your final word. So if I could set you up for that, that'd be lovely.
I will allow it. I have not seen it yet. So I don't know what this is referring. I mean, I know what I'm going to say, but I mean, I don't know what your thing is referring to. But
Okay,
I'll
great.
let you do your final word first, which is going to be a little sad. Mine's
Yeah, Kodai
happier.
Senga. Kodai Senga made his start down in Syracuse, and he struggled. And his postseason spot should not be guaranteed and is not guaranteed. All it takes is listening to the way Carlos Mendoza and company have been discussing this. 3 2/3, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Now, I'll raise my hand and admit I didn't watch the start. I was watching the Mets try to hold on to a playoff spot while Kodai Senga was making the start down in Syracuse, but I don't need to have watched it to say that that line doesn't scream like somebody who has figured it out and is knocking down the door to participate in the postseason. And I just think the Mets, a team that is going to have so many question marks, they're going to carry David Peterson on their postseason roster. Sean Manaea, Clay Holmes are going to be on their postseason roster. Ryan Helsley is going to be on their postseason roster. Gregory Soto is going to be on their postseason roster. Tyler Rogers, Edwin Diaz, guys who throughout the course of the year have been major question marks at times for this team. They're carrying so many as it is. I don't think they can afford to carry another one in Kodai Senga. He's certainly not good enough to be one of your postseason starters for a game, so that means you're using him as a reliever, and he's never done that before. And I'm sorry, I'm not using the postseason with the season hanging in the balance as my time for experimenting. So it just feels like you said it at the top that the Mets are going to be able to run out the clock on everybody else. It feels like the clock is running out for Kodai Senga to be a contributor for the 2025 New York Mets, and his postseason spot should not be guaranteed. And I know they called him back after making one start last year and used him in the postseason. I just don't think there's a world where he can be on the postseason roster unless things turn around very, very quickly. Oh, before you talk about the Centennial jerseys, whatever they are,
Centennial, not Sentinel.
for the Rangers,
The cacophony of Sentinel jerseys.
I want to read you this quote from the goaltender of the New York Rangers.
Starkin, what do you say?
Molly Walker asked him what the expectations are in his mind for the New York Rangers this season. A 2-word answer. Stanley Cup. Go.
I mean, that's what you want him to say, right? My expectations are a little bit lower than that. I do think that, again, as I mentioned on the show the other day, I do think they are a playoff team. But I know Shesterkin, based on the way his season ended last year, feels and has talked all off season and particularly recently as camp has gotten going about feeling like he owes something to the team and the organization and the fans after the way last season ended, and that he's refocused and has been doing what he needs to do to kind of get back on the track that he was a little bit earlier in his career. And so I'm not surprised that he has those expectations. He is talking as someone who is extremely motivated and has something to prove. And if you are a playoff caliber team in the preseason, your goal should always be the Stanley Cup. Do I think they're going to win the cup? I don't. Do I think they'll be in the playoffs? I do. But I also don't know what else you would want him to say.
I'm just sharing what I saw on social media. That's all.
Just saying. No, and my final word was going to be on the Centennial jerseys. I really like them.
They're really good. They're really
I like
good.
the shade of blue. You've got the patches. You've got the inside of the neckline design. If you have not seen them, go make an effort to go see them. They got released, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday, either Wednesday night or Thursday morning. Still a big fan of them. We don't see. I know they had like the dark royal blue with the Statue of Liberty type of thing, but you don't see a lot of alternate jerseys when it comes to certain New York teams, just because of the tradition that they have. The Rangers and the Yankees, for example, don't really have many alternates. So it is nice to have something that can be used, that is celebratory, that does have some historical significance, and that looks pretty sweet too. So big fan of them.
Yeah, they looked really good when I saw them on social media the other day, and that's saying something coming from me because I really don't like anything about that team. But the jerseys did look pretty sweet. That is it. We're done. We are out of here Friday, Football Friday edition of the show in the books. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening to us. Share the show with a fellow New York sports fan. We would definitely appreciate that. You want to watch the show? 2 ways to do that. You could join us over on Spotify, watch the video version there, and the NY Sports Index YouTube channel, another way for you to watch the show as well. Everybody enjoy the football and baseball over the weekend. We're back on Monday to break it all down. We'll talk to you then.